We are living in Trump's economy. We're living under Trump's tariff regime. As you saw, the Trump administration yet again blaming Joe Biden.
There is some real problems right now in the manufacturing sector.
He did fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics last month after a disappointing July jobs report.
Okay, I want to take some time and discuss more about the Trump economy and how massively it's failing and hurting Americans, and I'm going to use this CNN panel with Kasie Hunt to do so. If you can, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out a ton, gives us a boost in the algorithm. We really appreciate it, and it's totally free. And let's get right to the discourse.
We are living in Trump's economy. We're living under Trump's tariff regime. As you saw, the Trump administration yet again blaming Joe Biden and Jerome Powell. Trump has, of course, threatened to fire Powell because the Fed has yet to cut interest rates. He hasn't followed through on that threat, though, but he did fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics last month after a disappointing July jobs report. Economists looking at those numbers don't see a conspiracy, though. They see a warning. Today, the J.P. Morgan CEO, Jamie Dimon, looked at those same numbers that the White House gets, and he saw it this way.
The economy's weakening. You know, whether that is on the way to recession or just weakening, I don't know, and that just confirms what we already thought, kind of.
And I know
that's a big revision.
It's playing out exactly how I thought, with these clowns still so desperate to blame Biden 8 months into Trump's presidency, even though the inflation we were experiencing 8 months into Biden's presidency was his fault and not Trump's. But let's forget that ever happened. Well, now they have revisions to latch on to. So it's getting brought back to the forefront to, of course, distract from the fact that Trump is losing American jobs for the first time since the pandemic when he was in office, and losing manufacturing jobs for 4 months in a row. And even with this revision, what Fox News would ever tell you, Biden's monthly job creation was on an upward trend, is still higher than Trump's first term, any month in Trump's second term, and was a total of 13 million jobs. But yeah, and the reason, this is nuance, or the reason that these problems happen is because when new businesses open, there's estimates that have to happen in terms of how they're employing, as the data isn't available till later. That's why these revisions are made. Again, but I'm sure this is somehow just all Joe Biden's fault because of these revisions that don't mean any of the things they're trying to say they mean.
There is some real problems right now in the manufacturing sector that are being hit by tariffs that had started earlier, but this whole idea that somehow manufacturing was going to be resurgent, I think is really showing a lot of weakness. And those are numbers that I look at. We see these big numbers and these big revisions. It was the biggest revision, I think, ever, and that is serious. People understand that there are problems in the economy, but when we look at the sectors in the economy that are really being hit, that I think tells a story.
Yeah, well, and Brian Lanza, you know, the word recession, Jamie Dimon used it. He wasn't asked about that, right? I mean, who do you believe about the economy, Caroline Levitt or Jamie Dimon?
Yeah, listen, I believe the local mother and father that have to deal with buying gas and buying coffee. I mean, that's pretty clear. As what Chuck said, you know, in the last campaign, we litigated of actually how good the economy was.
At the end of the day, politically, the Trump administration is repeating the same mistakes of the Biden admins that allowed Trump the victory in this election. But this time around, he doesn't even have actual justification, right? Like, at least when Biden would wrongfully, wrong message, right facts, but wrong message, wrong way to articulate it, would reference COVID being a global problem and how we're rebounding better than other countries. These are at least objectively true metrics, right? It's at least something you could point to that is objectively true. Meanwhile, under Trump, he came into office with perfectly fine economic signs, and now we're falling directly in the dumps, from a GDP quarter of negative growth that had us worried about recession, to market collapse, to researchers now worrying about recession creeping back, inflation and unemployment rising. At this point, I'm wondering what the big win for the Trump administration even is for anyone who's not rich.
The problem, though, is that it's not just, if it was taken in isolation, that's one thing, but it's also married to the fact that there is less money being given by the federal government to things like wind farming, to actual industries that help gird the economy, give people jobs. So you are seeing a double-edged sword here, where they're actually sort of limiting the economy in two different ways that I think is really going to show and is showing. And I think the word recession is one that, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen one, and we might be due for one.
Yeah, but
we
let's
didn't
be
have a recession
clear.
during Biden. And by the way, I want to correct you on something. You said we did see wage growth under President Biden, record
But not
wage
enough.
growth. Yeah, but we saw record wage growth under President Biden. And he also kept us out of having a major recession after a once-in-a-generation pandemic, Brian. So let's be clear about that.
Again, objectively true metrics. Wages outpaced inflation for numerous years under Biden. Inflation was falling for numerous years under Biden. And he kept us out of a recession when all predictions on it was that it was unavoidable. Meanwhile, Trump took us from no predictions of recession to all economists teetering again, warning that we're teetering on the possibility of a recession just after walking that line 4 months ago. It is economic fail after economic fail as MAGA's entire worldview politically falls on its face. Which is why, undoubtedly, for the next 3 months, you'll see them all just only incessantly blaming the left for Charlie Kirk getting shot rather than discussing anything else that's actually political or of any actual political relevance to anyone.